Hello, welcome into the Legacy Archive. We are here not playing Magic the Gathering today. Instead, we're talking about Magic the Gathering. Pretty heavy news week this week. We had a ban announcement, and we have all the spoilers for Tarkir Dragonstorm. So we're talking a little bit about the bans today, but mostly about the new cards coming out and what we're excited about. But Tyler, Tarkir has a special place in our hearts, right?
It does. I took a few years off of Magic, maybe 2010 to 2015 or so, but got sucked right back in.
2010. 2010.
I know.
Bro, Onslaught came out in 2001 or 2002.
Oh, come on. I was playing past that. Give me a little credit. But yeah, I came back and...
Name one Shadowmoor card.
Very Macabre. Is that right? So I mean, Cons was my first standard setback, and it just brought so many cool cards. The clan identity was such a great aspect of the game. I know I was an Abzan guy, maybe a little Mardu. Sam, you are?
Oh, Teamer to the core. I mean, Savage Knuckle Blade. I'm still playing Stubborn Denial when I do pick up Modern. You know, I love me some Tribals. Any deck that plays Stubborn Denial, I'm super in. But we're not here to talk about Modern. Here, of course, to talk about Legacy. So. First and foremost, I think let's just get into the ban announcement that happened. Troll of Kazad-dum and Sowing Mycospawn are out of here.
I know, my poor black reanimator decks are hit a little bit here today.
Yeah. Tyler was playing a mono black grief when they banned it, so
he's had a lot of success.
He's hurting. All his little support cards. He's not playing the busted decks that these get banned. He's just playing some fair.
I know. Us fair guys get hit with this, but no, I think Troll was a nice decision. I think the ability for the tempo decks to play Wasteland and be able to have an almost automatic Entomb effect with the Troll swamp cycling, when they get you your second land, you can kind of still play that tempo game. I think that's a huge knockdown for those decks, and they will have to either go toward pure Reanimator or more toward a pure tempo strategy, and they don't have this kind of over-the-top
I think stuff like Tameo has really established itself in these tempo decks, as well as like stuff like Kaido, kind of the more mid-rangey plans.
Yeah,
so
your ninjas, there you go.
Well, I think that more Dimir, just like straight up, we're playing the best cards in the format, is still going to be great. But Reanimator has to go, I know you love some Rakdos Reanimator and Mono Black, so I think some of those are going to get a boost in more looks. But
I feel like that's the theme of Reanimator. I liked in the ban announcement that they discussed that the core of Reanimator is core to Legacy. Things like Entomb. When I see people call for that ban, I couldn't disagree more. I mean, we just had a video on our channel this week of you playing an Entomb in a non-creature deck, basically. And getting those storm decks hit and those other kind of decks, it's not great. It's not great. So I'm glad they want to keep the Reanimator shell together. I think Reanimator needs to come with that weakness of sometimes you have these big dummies in your hand, you can't do anything with them, or you need to work through that difficulty. And things like Frog and kind of the Troll really allowed those powerful Dimir decks to add that Reanimator. Aspect to them. All right, but I do not play as much.
No, you hit right on the head. You hit right on the head on that, because the problem was Troll. You would just do Troll turn one, and then you would be threatening, or you would just like target it, bring it back, I
guess you're right. Just the threat of that sitting in the yard the entire time is
getting your surveil lands even, like it was so multifunctional, and and it also fixed your mana too off a Blood Moon or something. Like it's just
right.
It always got you out of situations.
Right.
And then quickly on Sowing Mycospawn, I know I honestly I play a lot of Legacy Leagues and stuff. I have a little bit of experience against Eldrazi, and let me tell you, the Sowing Mycospawn experience is really demoralizing when it happens, because it just becomes about that. The rest of the game is just stacking Mycospawn on Mycospawn, finding some busted land for the perfect situation, or just double wastelanding and stuff like that. It really sucks. So I think these Eldrazi decks are going to survive. They're going to be more aggressive, or you're going to see people shift more to like Cloud Post and things like that for bigger mana, or even Glaring Fleshraker and Kozilek's Command. I mean, they fit so perfectly in those
powerful
decks
enough
as a combo.
Yeah.
So you can even go that way. So I think this is an overall plus. I know a lot of people talk about control decks are going to have an easier time, which I definitely agree with. But to be honest with you, I think both of us were ingredients that if they said no changes, I don't think we were going to cry about it. But I'm definitely excited to see a minor shakeup. You know, nothing groundbreaking, but I think everyone's kind of shaking their hand. Everyone's shaking hands and saying, "All right,
well done. We'll take it.
On.
We'll take it." Yeah, you definitely play much more online than I do. I'm a paper guy, so you probably have a lot more experience against this card than I do. But I know that they mentioned in the announcement that it's just, yeah, like you said, creates this kind of unfun play pattern. Attacking basic lands, especially exiling basic lands, is something that I don't know. It's just kind of and shouldn't be happening in Magic, and you should have a little bit, even especially in a wasteland format, you should have some semblance of safety with the basic land out there. So I think we both agree with these changes. I'm glad they didn't go too far, and be interested to see.
Install spells could get a kick in the nuts. I'm not gonna lie, I really hate that deck, but if they didn't feel like the win rates were there, I'm totally fine with it surviving. It's just, I think a lot of people are sick of putting 4 Leon of the Voids in their sideboard, and
right.
Dimir Reanimator was part of that, but Oops All Spells is the other key to those sideboard choices.
Yeah. What do you think about, I know around this announcement, I heard some whispers of a Thassa's Oracle. What do you think about something like that? It's such a, it can either be seen as as a format defining card or almost a format warping card, where you have so many decks trying to do the same exact thing with it. I think I don't know.
I've as toxic as that card is, and how Laboratory Maniac existed for a while, so it was always you had to play the Lab Man and then draw a card, and then like figure out another card to win. So that just cut out that second card, and obviously the ETB and kill. There's like no way to stop the trigger once it's happened. But I think what Doomsday and what even Dredge uses it, even obviously Oops All Spells and there's Cephalid Breakfast, obviously the other big one. It unlocks a win in a way in Legacy that not a lot of other decks do. It's almost like it's just like the perfect little end point to I milled my entire library now.
Right. And again,
there's a lot of ways to do that.
As an opponent, I should see that coming, and I know you're trying to do that, and I have ways to interact with that. So,
and most of the time, it is if you're messing with their graveyard, you're going to be messing with their Thassa's Oracle. So, I think it's a nice, clean way to end a game. Even if I think it is a little cheeky at times, and it certainly feels bad, but I think it's just on the pantheon of this is what we do in Legacy.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, let's check out the new set.
All right, well, let's start talking about some brand spanking new cards. The set does look really dope. Obviously, this is like the calm before the storm, before
the Dragonstorm.
Universes Beyond.
Just the Dragonstorm.
Perfect, yes. Before Universe Beyond is about to take over, I think this is like the last, hey guys, here's a Magic set for you.
Hey, I saw a Deadpool card today, so that's coming.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we're kind of going to break this up into just two kind of categories and keep it super casual and loose. We have about 5 or 6 cards that we think are legit, you're going to see this. I would say maybe in 6 months. That's kind of our idea. Is you're going to still see these cards circulating, and then we have about a dozen cards that are going to be a little more interesting, a little more niche, a little more. Hey, maybe this would be can be tried out in certain archetypes. So
yeah, I love one of my favorite things about Legacy is kind of how slow moving it is. That even though these cards will be impactful, it's kind of we have stock up, right? Yeah, right. But we have these kind of established archetypes, and they kind of slowly incorporate these cards. Rarely is there a brand new deck that just pops up. But these cards kind of trickle through these standard sets and impact Legacy in kind of cool ways.
You got to put it through the ringer. You got to put new decks to the fire of this insanely powerful format that we love. And then sometimes, something like Stock Up goes through and you're like, oh yeah, it doesn't get Bowmastered.
Right.
Incredible in combo decks, incredible in control decks.
Yep.
It perfectly fits in how the system is working right now. So that's where we think these first couple cards are going to be. All right.
Yeah.
First card we're talking about. This thing is sick.
Yes.
Colossal Grave Reaver. 6 black green, 8 mana, 7/6 flying dragon. When this creature enters or attacks, mill 3 cards, and whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put one of them onto the battlefield Tell me how you feel about reanimate target Colossal Grave, please.
Oh, I have a lot of feelings about this. This is a legit reanimate target for these decks. I mean, you can see on the screen, you combo this Entomb, Buried Alive, things like Shallow Grave. You're getting so much value off of this. And if you can kind of tune your deck towards something like this, like a Golgari Reanimator, you know, this is a significant part. I mean, even one extra target off these mills, or if you can set this up in a way with Brainstorm, where I'm going crazy. I'm thinking of like Worldly Tutor. I'm thinking of things like that. Put something on top of your library.
Well, we saw Worldly Tutor. I saw a little bit of Worldly Tutor Metamorphosis Fanatic, just straight Golgari Reanimator, kind of floating around after Dustmourne came out. So I think that's what this card. You know, this card, any Reanimator target, Atraxa, Grizzlebrand, Archon of Cruelty. Those are the top three. So you got to be competing with those, but I think that this card gives you some more flexibility than you kind of didn't have, to where you can actually make a reanimate turn a triple reanimate turn, you know, with the Metamorphosis Fanatic, and like you said, I think you can keep this Demir with Brainstorm and Ponder setting up the top, and then you entomb it, or then you reanimate it and get it going. And just so we're clear, if you cast Entomb after this is in play, that creature goes right into play.
Right. And yeah, sorry to cut you off, but Malevolent
Rumble. I
totally.
want to just mention another card that's been popping up a lot in some other archetypes. But Malevolent Rumble, you know, very good card, gives you some mana, and that's going to be able to reanimate afterwards, or just like, you know, accidentally mill it over. So there's a lot of options, a lot of things to tool with, and I hope someone out there is really keen on this card too and trying to make it work.
I know, I love it. Hopefully it gets added to the pantheon of reanimatable creatures. I always love seeing the fun stuff. You know, I love.
I try to 5-0 with this, and I'm not trying to win a challenge. I think that's probably where these reanimator decks end up.
Right.
I don't know. I'm really high. I think we're both really high on this card.
I am. Yeah, for sure.
I just want to mention it's green, natural order.
Natural order. That, yes. I mean, same idea. I mean, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with this. All right, let's go to a Sam type of card. We are going to introduce Mist Rise Village. I know this caused a splash when it got spoiled a couple weeks ago, a week ago. Who knows?
People were crying on the internet.
Oh, I know. So this is a land. It's going to enter tapped unless you control a mountain or forest. Tap for a blue mana, which is the only relevant line of text here. Just kidding. The second line. Blue, tap, the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. I will say, I'll let you take it after this. Can't be countered is one of my favorite lines of Magic text, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. He's sarcastic for those who don't know.
Yes. All right, blue combo player, take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, this card immediately reminds us of Boseiju Who Endures, which is from original Kamigawa block, which is colorless land that always enters tapped, and use the colorless mana and 2 life to have an instant sorcery be uncounterable. So I've been playing a lot of Omnitel recently. I just played it on the channel. Please check that out.
Great match.
Haven't seen it. I think this is like perfect for that deck, and I have been toying with 1 to 3 Boseiju Who Endures in the sideboard of that deck already. So I think this is potentially main deckable. I think it's competing with stuff like Mystic Sanctuary, like Odawara, kind of in that realm where it's like you're one of blue land that isn't a basic. There's a couple options you kind of always have access to, but it's interesting because I think a lot of the blue matchups end up being wasteland matchups, but you can run into lands or mono black aggro or things like that are also playing wasteland. So it's not always that simple, but I'm wondering if this is going to just replace Boseiju Who Endures in the sideboard and something you bring in when you're playing, Simic Omnitel, or are you just going to main deck 1 and just because counter spells are so relevant? That's kind of my first thought here.
Right. I think, not a controller temple card. You're really looking for those combo decks to really take advantage of that ability. Totally agree. And yeah, I mean, I think a sideboard option is really fun here. What an interesting thought. I've seen some things in some of my Maverick lists of like a sideboard like Urza's Saga or something like that. Always piques my interest. So.
And I want to say Sneak and Show too. Volcanic Island. This is going to come into play on tapped. Tropical Island for the Omnitel. Most people are splashing that green in Omnitel right now. There are some mono blues out there. That's the big thing. I think my main point for this card is if it comes into play, if it's not going to consistently come to play untapped, or you just don't have a way to have it untapped, maybe it's just Viseiju in that sense, if you're playing exactly mono blue Omnitel. Or like, blue painter's popping up. I'm not sure if this can get into blue painter because it always coming to play tapped is just the tempo loss and legacy is so hard to
I would agree. Yeah, if it's not coming in constantly untapped, it could completely
some Doomsday decks are just blue black, but some have a little Sultai for like sideboard Veil of Summers and some like Carpenter Flowers I've seen. So that's the other deck. So I want to say Omnitel, Sneak and Show, Doomsday, and maybe Storm, but that's like a big maybe. But I think Omnitel, Sneak and Show, Doomsday. This is the card for those decks.
Right. Yeah, and it's actually funny. Looking at this other cycle, I think I saw this one. Maybe I saw this one first, and I said, "Ooh, what do we have here? We got some good stuff." And the other four colors just did not line up. We were
the black ones maybe,
but I mean we were going to talk about one or two others today, but I just don't even think it's worth it. I mean, this is obviously the upside to this one versus the downside makes it a legacy.
Wasteland.
Yeah, makes it a legacy, viable card, but the rest of the cycle does not match up to this.
Yeah.
So
blue players this will be around. This will be around.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Well, moving on to the next card we got here, Rakshasa's Bargain.
Oh, you love
Tyler just had flashbacks to Rakshasa
Death Dealer. Yes, give it Death Touch.
I think you were trying to play that in Pioneer just even last year.
I will cast the Siege Rhino at some point again. Don't worry. And it's
Baby Siege Rhino. Spoiler alert: Baby Siege Rhino didn't make.
When that? Yeah, right. When that came out, you knew I was thinking turn 2 that into turn 3 Siege Rhino. It's gonna happen. All right, Rakshasa's Bargain. What do you got for us?
Rakshasa's Bargain. Here we go. It is 2. It's 3 hybrid mana. You either play 2 colorless for each pip or black, green, blue. So it's like Sultai or more. But it's an instant. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So this card favorably works with Up the Beanstalk, of course. That is kind of the big thing there.
Yes, triggers that on cast. You had a great point earlier today when we were talking about this card that this is a stock up comparison. It's going to typically cost the same amount of mana. The only difference there is this is a little more difficult to cast because you're going to have that Sultai mana to
always
cast it.
Sultai.
Obviously stock up gives you that colorless and the blue with something like Ancient Tomb is really nice. But the instant aspect of this and the triggering beans is so attractive for these sort of decks. I mean, you're getting 3 decks, 3 cards essentially off of the cast of this. So doing that on an end step, I think is something to consider. And something that can be looked at as a playable card.
Yeah, and I mean Bowmaster is the big thing here.
Right.
It gets around Bowmaster.
I know. They print Bowmaster. All of a sudden, everything becomes X2, and all of a sudden, nobody's drawing cards anymore. I mean, what are they doing?
Well, that's the point. Yeah, I feel like they had to warp it around Bowmaster because they really just don't want to ban Bowmaster because it's kind of a fair card at the end of the day. It's like the greatest response to Brainstorm since Brainstorm.
Could you imagine for me? They go Grief, Troll, Bowmaster.
I think just Sultai Bean's going to love this, and it's going to be a 1 or 2 of not a huge impact. I think they're just happy to have this card.
Yeah. Let's hop over to another multicolored instant that I know you're a big fan of, Auroral Procession. This might be your dragon for this set. This might be
my number 1 card.
Favorite
this
card.
Is my personal favorite.
We have an instant that is that you can exile to a certain number of cards. I won't steal your thunder, but it returns a target card from your graveyard to your hand. Go ahead, take it away.
It's instant speed regrowth. This effect is incredibly powerful, and I mean, where do we even start with this card? I think this is going to get a little overlooked, but we're already, we're past the point where Snapcaster Mage is like relevant, right?
Right.
But this card can get back like your lands. It can get Wasteland, fetch lands. It pitches the Force of Will, Force of Negation, Force of Vigor out of your sideboard. So I really think this fits great in some maybe multicolored Bean or Uro-based control decks. I know a lot of people were complaining that Uro-based control decks have not been great, and that was maybe because of Dimir Reanimator and Sowing Mycospawn. So I think if that style deck's back, I think this card is just like going to be a little underappreciated at first, but I'm really hoping to see this show up in a lot of lists. I don't think it's like Temur Delver. I don't think it's going to be low tempo, but I really just I like the idea of the play pattern of this card. You know, you're holding up Bowmaster, a counterspell, or you're holding up this, and maybe you need your third land drop. Maybe you just want to wasteland them again. It's got so much flexibility. I just and this is not even to mention Hunting Wish. Again, Omnitel, I'm going to keep talking about this deck. But
when it gets tools like this and stock up, it's hard to ignore it. I mean, I would imagine
it's like the momentum's growing.
That deck, yes. If you're planning on playing competitive Legacy, this deck is going to be around. It's going to grow and it's going to get better with cards like this. So be prepared for that. I would not be shocked if the meta share of Omnitel and these kind of decks really start rising with these. I mean,
that's definitely because of stock. I want to be clear. That's because of stock, not because of overall perception.
Hey, you never know.
But another look. These are standard sets coming. We're playing Legacy. There's only going to be maybe literally one or two actual bangers that we're going to be playing. So I think just a card like this is going to take maybe a little bit longer to appreciate and a little bit longer to kind of find its way. But we've never seen, I'm excited because we've never seen this before. And I just think it's a very, very, very small line of text that has a lot of interesting things to think about. Right.
No, and I think you're thinking about the end of your second turn, you're hurting for that third land drop. You've got a fetch in the yard. You're holding up a counter spell or something crazy like a dress down if you need it or some weird thing. You know, you can play this and get your land and keep rolling nice and easy. I mean, it is.
I just look just like Snapcaster Mage. I return Swords of Plowshares. I return.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing. Right. You're just getting back
later in the game. It's just its value goes up the longer the game goes. So I think these Bant based, Esper or sorry, not Esper. It's green, but kind of Bant based decks that are Teferiing and Burrowing as their kind of ways to or as kind of their main win condition. I think this is just wow, chef's kiss for those guys. All right, well, I think everyone's head exploded when this card got spoiled.
No.
Ugin, Eye of the Storms.
Storms.
Tyler has.
He's the eye of multiple storm, not just one storm. How does that work?
In original Tarkir block, I mean, the 8-mana one is just such a legendary, such an incredible magic card.
I tell Sam all the time. He was a longtime modern Tron player. I have Stockholm syndrome against these cards like this and Karn Liberated and these Ugin cards. They have beat
I'm glad you mentioned Karn Liberated.
Yes,
because
same
this
mana
card
cost
has straight up power crept the hell out of Karn Liberated.
So my Tron Stockholm syndrome leads me to loving this card. Please introduce it. Go ahead.
Yeah. He's gonna be a Cloud Post player soon.
Yeah.
All right, Ugin, Eye of the Storms. 7 mana, 7 loyalty, legendary planeswalker Ugin. When you cast this spell, exile up to one target permanent that's one or more colors. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to one target permanent that's a one or more colors.
Is this just what we're talking about? Our next.
I haven't got to the loyalty abilities.
Our next band announcement.
No.
Oh, there's more.
You just get that. +2, you gain 3 life and draw a card. 0, add triple colorless, only colorless, not generic. It has to be colorless only. And -11. This is just if you get to this point of the game and your opponent's still in it, what are you doing? -11, search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, shuffle until the end of your turn. You may cast those cards without paying their.
I love they're not just on the field. You're casting them, so you're exiling.
Yeah, it's just yeah. So
wow.
The first place I do think about this card is Cloud Post. We just saw Planar Nexus decks really take off in the last year. With Urza's Tower, Planar Nexus giving you absurd amounts of mana. So that's the first immediate home for this card.
I just think of, I'm going to cast a Lotus Petal and exile your creature. I mean,
Lotus Petal became a freaking weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, I mean, what a card. What can you say? These colorless decks, they got something banned and they got something given right back to them here. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's all those Cloud Post decks that were taking advantage of Sowing Mycospawn certainly took a hit. But again, I think that Planar Nexus and stuff like the Ring is just bridging the gap for these decks in a way that it's never has before. And this card even paired with something like Glaring Fleshraker, you're just going to town on people's at that point. But
yeah,
I do want to be clear.
Fleshraker into a Kozilek's command to get the pings and the mana, and then you're ripping into that. I mean,
if you untap with this, I mean, you're just
you're feeling good.
I mean, 9 loyalty, and you draw a card, and you exiled one of their things. Like, the value is insane. But I do want to be clear. Like, I don't want to be overreactive. This card is very niche in its one shell, but I really think any Cloud Post big mana players are going to be excited. Even I'd be interested to see if this finds its way into like maybe the sideboard or like a one of main deck in some of these Grim Monolith decks, but they tend to lean a little more combo-y, so a card like this is not really needed, but maybe sideboard they just want to switch it up or have this sticky, like insane thing that's just, you're playing against a fair deck that's going to bring in a lot of hate for you, so you just have this.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really deal with this other than a Shoulder's Edict or something like that, so it certainly scares me. All right, well, we will, let me introduce our next card, complete opposite of Big Boy Hugin, being a cute little dragon, a little 3-mana dragon. I like a couple lower mana dragons in the set. It's actually kind of interesting. This one is a 2 and a white for Clarion Conqueror. This is a flying dragon. Activated abilities of artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers cannot be activated. So this is really interesting. This is a nice hate bear piece. Immediately when I see new white cards, white creatures printed, I look at their toughness because my first interest is Recruiter of the Guard and getting them with Recruiter of the Guard. But I think the added triple hate bear piece is really interesting here. I know you were really into this. I know you were brewing up some mono white initiative.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I saw this card and another card we're going to talk about, and I was like, man, I've never wanted to play mono white.
Yeah, let me pair this with Archon of Emeria and things like that.
Yes,
we're
Anointed Peacekeeper. I think those are the two. I think this card is an Ancient Tomb white card, which we haven't seen those decks.
Completely.
Forest Initiative and EW23, for those who were there, that was like a huge archetype across all the Eternal Weekends. And we really see that shift to just mono red, or you're playing like Gruul. I like the Gruul Initiative versions now, but it seems like Boros specifically has really gone out of favor. But I think a card like this is this the hero we need? Is this it stops the ring. It stops Nomad and Core from the Nadu decks.
It's a creature. It's a creature card. Stopping the artifact. Stopping the artifact.
Yes, it stops Karn the Great. Yes, Great Creator, Grim Monolith. Like it. And the only thing I think this card is kind of awkward because you play Lotus Petal and Chronox in these decks, so you kind of have this weird balance going on. But if you're pushing this out, it's really not that big.
Right. I think these decks want to get this out turn one and just kind of slowly win the game from that point. So
yeah, and it's almost like a density thing. It's like can this card be the piece that makes, because Archon of Emeria, I think, is an awesome card that is completely just doesn't have a home. It can't be recruited for, so it's a little awkward in the Orzhov Taxes decks. And 3 mana without, and like I said, there's none of these white Ancient Tomb decks really going around. So I think if you want to do like a little different style, Seasoned Dungeoneer is the initiative creature, Solitude deck. You play Felia in a deck like this, and take advantage of those now. So
I mean, with Archon of Emeria,
I'm gonna bring this deck up. I might bring this on the channel if I have some success online. Playing this.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, what they do in Vintage if this makes an appearance. Like again, those Archons are so powerful.
Archon is a huge card.
It's a huge card. It's a huge card in Vintage,
and I love taking inspiration from that form.
Yeah. So I mean, this is cool. I mean, the 3/3 flyers, nothing to scoff at, especially in a lot of these kind of hate bear taxes decks. I think I have a huge problem when I'm solituding or swordsing away all of your big creatures, and then I've got 5 turns I've got to catch back up. So a 3/3 power with evasions, nothing to scoff at either. So
and what I do want to mention, I was thinking about this because a lot of those Ancient Tomb kind of stompy decks are Cavernous Souls based. The typing here might be actually the small part that makes this awkward, or you have to build your deck slightly differently. And also Seasoned Dungeoneer. It at the beginning of upkeep, one of your creatures, but it's like it has to be like a cleric, rogue, warrior, or like wizard or something.
Right.
It's like everything in the D&D party is what it targets. So it actually can't target this because it's a dragon. So So there might be some minor awkwardness, but I think the lockdown factor of this is really, really, really just. I think it's there. I think it does enough.
All right. So whoever sees Dragon Hate Bears on MTGO this week, it's Sam.
Probably in the 05 bracket.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go to our next category. We're gonna call these role players / fringe cards. So we again, a part of Legacy that we like a lot is it's a super high bar of entry. You have to be impactful. You have to make a difference coming into the game and coming into these lists.
You have to be better than every card in the slot, ever.
Right, which is admittedly difficult.
Yes, that's why Modern Horizons cards usually get in, because they're designed on a different scale than standard sets.
Absolutely, and so that'll be interesting to see with these Universes Beyond, because that was things like Warhammer. We saw some cool cards come out of that. But as Marvel and these other sets start to come through standard, the power levels should likely be lower. So we'll probably see less and less of that, which I'm okay with.
But then again, they just put Craterhoof in.
Yeah, sure. So maybe they'll balance it that way.
Some really powerful stuff happening in standard. So I think they're kind of like drip feeding a little bit of power push. So that's not going to be Modern Horizons level, because I don't think they can sustain that forever. So I'm hoping. I think the Final Fantasy set was going to have more hits than we initially thought. But we're not talking about that. We're still talking about
yes. All right.
Dragonstorm cards.
Introduce our next card.
All right. So I put this card right here next to the dragon we just talked about, because this card is called Sage of the Skies. It's 2 and a white for a 2/3 human monk. And when you cast a spell, if you cast another spell this turn, copy this spell, and it has flying and lifelink. So I'm just going to piggyback off what I was basically saying. This like theoretical Ancient Tomb Plains deck.
You just want to build this deck. You just want to put this together.
I'm talking myself into it. And after we record this and it goes crashing and burning, this is going to be solidified forever that I had this take. But, I think this card's got a lot of interesting kind of things to it. So it's turn 1, you go, Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, or Chrome Mox into this. And it's a cast trigger, so Force to Will hates this card. And it's like it does a good job keeping you having the initiative. It offsets your ring and Ancient Tomb damage. So, it looks so unassuming, but I don't know. I want to try it as like kind of a 2 of in this deck and see if it's enough. Four power flying on turn 1 spread over 2 bodies. I mean, if you just say that in that context, it's pretty good. But we'll see how consistent that is.
Right. No, the copy of a creature spell is so cool. I think that's an interesting design space. I wonder what they do with that.
It's an Eldrazi. This has the Eldrazi text.
Right. And yeah, I mean, like you just said, four power flying on turn 1 is not a joke. It's not. I mean, I play a lot of these kind of mono black aggro decks, and you think something like a Stalactite Stalker is stupid until it's smacking you in the face for 3 or 4 a turn with evasion, and 2 bodies out there having to deal with that quickly is very difficult. So, I think, like you said, the space for this would be in that Ancient Tomb, cast a Chrome Mox or Lotus Petal. You have 2 of these out there. That's kind of the only real impactful place I see it. And even
later in the game, main phase Solitude, get rid of one of the things, play this because for the mana. It's like you can, and you don't always have to play. You don't always just have Lotus Petal on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have it on turn 3 and you still have this, like maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh boy. All right. Let me see if I can get all the words on here. All right. Oreni, the Song Unending. I like that.
What a name.
What a name. I do like that. Song Unending. All right. 5 and the Teamer colors. Oh, with a nice big Teamer claw right in the middle. All right. We have a legendary Spirit Dragon. It is flying, protection from white and black. And when Oreni enters, it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers your opponents control, where X is the number of lands you control. Okay.
And it's a 10/10.
And it's a 10/10. Excuse me. I forgot to mention that. So this is an interesting one. Probably does not replace any of the big guys in Reanimator or Show and Tell or Sneak Attack. But the protection from white is pretty interesting. So if you're going up against Teferi or like a Swords of Plowshares type of deck, this is something you might think about sideboarding in. It gets protection from that. They can't really deal with it, after that point. And it can't be blocked by Baleful Strix. So something like a 1/1 Death Toucher can't immediately stop it, which is really nice. So
yeah, and dude, 2 attacks, GG, you're done.
That is true. That is true. 10 is a big old number.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't want to discount. I don't want to discount its ETB trigger. I think there are a lot of situations where 3 damage divided, 4 damage divided. Like sometimes you don't have this on turn 1, but especially if you're playing like Show and Tell or Sneak Attack.
I would love.
So I do
if
think that trigger is relevant.
It is relevant. I would love if that said any target. I feel like that would be
of course, yeah, that would be nuts.
and yeah, like you said, if you're playing this in a Reanimator sort of shell, you're not typically casting this with 8 lands on the battlefield. You have maybe 2 or 3.
Never.
So that gets a little a little less. But again, I think the key here is the pro white and black. So if you're playing something that's giving you issues, like I said, Swords of Plowshares, Baleful Strix, some annoying kind of blocker or black removal or something like that. It certainly suffers.
The cons of unfortunately are like still suffers Brazen Borrower, and it doesn't give you the same kind of value that Atraxa Archon and Grizzlebrand would give you in that situation, and definitely Stainless Shoulder's Edict. Like those are the 2 common ways to deal with Reanimator from the removal spell side of things. So unfortunately, it takes some hits there, but I think this is like like a sideboard. Like I remember, like Emiria Shield, the shield.
Yeah, Iona Shield. Iona Shield of Emiria.
Iona.
Yeah.
Right. She's like just completely locked your opponent out from like touching her.
Yes.
I think that's where this card kind of
fits. Right. If their answer to your stuff is Swords of Plowshares or
if I don't know if your Orzhov decks are playing Shoulder's Edict, but like what's the Blink deck going to do against this? And this cleans up the board.
Yeah, it does actually. Kind of furies its way through.
It just furies the board.
I'm going through my
twice and you die.
I'm going through my sideboard and my mental list here.
Unless some people are playing like 1 Shoulder's Edict, but
not that I can think of. I mean, I think I'm proactively getting a Grafdigger's Cage or Thought Seizing and Fairy Macabring this out of the way. I don't think there's much.
Yeah, it's like, and I think I almost like this more than Reanimator. I do actually. The more I think about this, I think I like it more Show and Tell Sneak Attack. I think that's maybe where this.
Yeah, I mean, 10 smack you feels pretty good. All right, what do you got for us next?
Card. We are
another dragon.
So this one, not going to take too much time on this one, but this is Stormscale Scion. 4 red for a 4/4 flying dragon. Other dragons you control get +1/+1. There's no. Hey. There's this little word called Storm.
Hey,
ever heard of that? So this card is almost exactly the same as Elemental Eruption, which we saw in Outlaws of Thunder Junction commander decks. So a Ruby Storm favorite. I know a lot of people probably haven't seen Ruby Storm in a while, but I know there's some people out there still championing that deck.
Hey, Tony Scapone is always doing that.
I think he's moved on to Coveted Jewel.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Ruby Storms lately. But another deck I want to get on the channel. You'll see me play Ruby Storm at some point. But Elemental Eruption is 6 mana. And you make a bunch of 4/4 flying prowess tokens, the same tokens that Eris Roar of the Storm makes. So my only kind of thought here is that the Eruption tokens are more vulnerable than the 6 mana dragons, and the dragons are immediately much bigger. So I think you like immediately end the game the next turn, where there are some situations where you just go like ritual. Elemental Eruption, you just make it 3 dragons, and then you have to cast more spells to pump them up. So it might take 2 hits. So I think this is like immediately you're dead in the next turn. And those tokens are more vulnerable than 6 mana creatures in the way of Engineer Explosives. Again, not a huge spell that you see much more in Modern than Legacy, but it is around. Ratchet Bomb and Powder Keg kind of do the same thing too. Again, more fringe sideboard cards, but they are around. But I think the big negative for this card is that you can't Burning Wish for it like you can for Elemental Eruption. That's like the key card in Ruby Storm.
I kind of love that other dragons you control get +1/+1, so you're making the copies, so you're just like pumping everybody in like sequential fashion.
Insane. Yeah, I think if this resolves compared to Elemental Eruption, your opponent actually has 0 chance, but with Elemental Eruption, they might have these wonky sideboard cards. But I think the fact that you can't Burning Wish for this it's not going to replace that. And Ruby Storm's the only deck that would play this, so we can move on.
Yeah. My cute one coming up, Surrak, Elusive Hunter, 2 and a green.
This card is the most unfortunate.
This is so funny. This is so funny. As we were getting ready for this review,
we just wanted to mention this. Maybe one day this card.
Yeah,
comes out.
and I mean this is a relevant little interaction here that
go ahead.
That we'll learn about. But so the spell can't be countered for a 3 trample. Whenever a creature you control or a creature spell you control becomes the target of a spell or ability that opponent controls, draw a card. So you could imagine if you have a Surrak and your opponent casts an Orcish Bowmaster targeting your Surrak, you are going to deck yourself. So
profit. You thought you were going to profit, but then you died. So let's go through that real quick.
Right.
I cast Surrak, Elusive Hunter.
Right.
Pass the turn.
He resolves at your end step. I will cast Orcish Bowmaster targeting Surrak. That will trigger Surrak to draw.
I have drawn a card.
I will trigger my Bowmaster.
What has that done? Triggered Bowmaster
to target Surrak.
So you're consistently targeting Surrak. I am drawing the card, but the damage will never resolve, and then you end up just drawing your entire deck. So it might be stupid to why we're talking about this card, but
unplayable legacy.
I think literally because of that, this card will not see play, and it's so unfortunate.
I know it's such a cool tool.
What a powerful card,
man! That gets such a killer.
I think this card would be this card would be great in Green Sun decks. But another note I had in here was it's heavily competing with Nadu. I mean, let's be realistic here. Nadu doesn't get crushed by Bowmaster, and it's a combo, kind of like a combo card, obviously with the Nomads and Shuko, but. So this card has like such great text on it, and you just would want a card like this to be a great support role in a Green Sun deck, but too many negatives. But we just wanted to bring it up in case you came across it, that don't cast this into a Bowmaster. You will lose.
Yeah, I'm kind of as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, is this worth a sideboard slot in some of those Maverick-y lists like that Green Sun list? Maybe.
I think if
knowing that they're not on Bowmaster and really heavy counterspell sort of thing, but I think potentially. But as a main deck card going blind into Bowmaster, just deck in yourself. That is too funny.
Yeah. Yeah, love you, Surrak, but one day I'll put you in a commander deck.
There you go. All right, next up for me, I think I like this card a little more than you, but I think
controversial.
Yeah, right. Where this slots in, I think knocks this down to where it is right now, where we're discussing it. Magmatic Hellkite, 2 and 2 red for a 4/5 flying, another Dragonstorm. When this creature enters, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. Its controller searches the library for a basic land, puts it on the battlefield tapped with a stun counter on it, then shuffles. So we've seen this in recent red cards like Krenko's Buzz Crusher, Obsidian Charmoth, things like that. I think the stun counter is kind of an interesting aspect to this kind of land destruction sort of thing. And I think this makes it a little more playable. But unfortunately, the decks that would play this are you're looking at your, red stompy sort of decks. And in that 4 slot, you not only have the ring, you have a good old Pyroglyph right now. And so I think this is a little
4
tough.
drops are competitive.
It's competitive. 4/5. That is a beast. That is a beast.
Yes, so I will say it has added the toughness. It's bigger than the Buzz Crusher, and then it has the stun counter thing. So that's the question we're asking here: is an added toughness and the stun counter good enough to make this a desirable effect?
And even if this doesn't land in Legacy, I personally just like when they try out kind of I don't know, new mechanics or kind of put a twist on mechanics. I like that land destruction with the stun counter. I think that's a really punishing thing because
this is
a lot of times
you're
destroying a non-basic land, they get a basic land back, they don't feel terrible. It's not a wasteland, it's not a short line. So I think the stun counter taking that tempo turn off is really impactful. And this could find its way into some sideboard or something like that. But yeah, I think the decks that are playing this already have some pretty good 4 drops up there.
Yeah.
That they're looking at, so.
If anything, this would just be like a little one of you just want for a meta that you expect or something.
Exactly. Yeah, cool art, cool dragon. But
all right, this next card, I'm letting you. You're going to talk mostly about this one, but I'll read it. Karsi Revenant, 1 black for a 3/3 vampire with flying, death touch, and lifelink. And it has a new ability, Renew, for 2 and a black. You can exile this from your graveyard and put a flying counter, a death touch counter, and a lifelink counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. take it away, Mono Black Aggro Connoisseur.
Yes. I was a big fan of Renew and Harmonize, actually, from this set. I thought that was kind of a cool, great direction. Yeah, this is interesting. It's probably a little below rate for what we're looking for. Obviously, something like Barrogoyf in the slot has been an absolute monster for these decks. I think the Renew is fairly interesting. You know, all three counters. We've talked a lot about jumping a Nethergoyf, something like that. You know, I don't know. It's kind of working against itself in that it's exiling itself in these decks that care about Delirium and your card types in the yard.
Yeah.
You
can hopefully have multiple creatures. If
ideally.
Barrogoyf misses a lot.
Yeah, true. I don't know. Like I said, we're discussing it down here in kind of these fringe cards. It's a fun card. I was smiling the entire time I was reading it.
It's into a Barrogoyf.
Hey, why not?
Flying Barrogoyf.
Flying Nethergoyf sounds pretty terrifying.
But
definitely,
you know, there's a lot. Again, another competitive ass slot in a deck that has so many options for that. So, I think this has enough good words on it that if you played it, it wouldn't be embarrassing.
Right, exactly. If you like the card, if you like Mono Black like me and you like the card, toss one in. You know, who cares? Do it.
Yeah, one of for a couple months. That's what this card is. Sure. Maybe a month.
Exactly. All right, so we will jump from black to white. Now, this is a card you like more than me, so I'll let you talk about it.
Hey, kids, do you like Coco?
United Battle Front. 3 and a white. Look at the top 7 cards in your library. Put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanents with mana value 3 or less from among them in the battlefield. Put the rest in the bottom in any order. All right, take it away with some possibilities.
Did you say 7 cards?
I know. Stock up, boy.
No, that's 5.
Oh, I know.
Through time is 7.
I know.
So, again, this card would be almost forming a newer archetype that we haven't seen. So it's like very unforeseen if this card can make it. But again, 7 is super deep, and I'm just going to kind of rattle off a couple permanents that I think this works best with. Teferi and Narset, the classic combo in our Days Undoing decks. So you pay 4 mana to get 6 mana worth of Planeswalkers that are really impactful. Narset's going to give you a card back. Teferi can get you a card back and remove something. Or Teferi Plus can actually cast this at instant speed. So you can turn this into a Coco.
He's reaching.
I'm not reaching. I'm telling you, man. There's another deck I might just throw together for a league or two just to see.
Man, I've never seen you talk so much about planes in my entire life.
Yeah, you got my collection is so funny. It's like blue cards are like almost an entire row of my 5 section for each color, and white is like 30% of this row, maybe 25% of a row. There's like, you know, Stasis is this really old busted card that some people like to play. Standstill, another one.
Of course.
Stasis might not even be legal in Legacy. I'm sorry, but I can't remember. But back to basics, Fable, Namir Raker, Blood Moon. Those are some of the other permanents that I was thinking about alongside Standstill, Teferi, Narset. So it's kind of like you're playing like a tap-out control deck, a tap-out prison deck, I think is where this could fit.
Do I see a note you put down here, Enchantress?
I did put Enchantress down. That's a good eye, because a combo that we don't see in Legacy is Solemnity and 9 Lives. These are 2 more cards.
That is such a cool and annoying interaction to have.
Yeah, super annoying. But again, much more disruptible in Legacy. I think a lot of people do have tools to bounce just non-land permanents. I mean, Leyline Bindings and Beans are up to Beanstalks are getting nicked all the time. So people are ready for permanent-based stuff. So I think the lockout pieces are a lot more enticing than something like that. But Enchantress, I threw it out there. Enchantress's presence is 3 mana. A lot of the enchantments you want to play are going to be cheaper. So, cast this, trigger some Enchantress to draw some cards, get some more draw effects. I'm not going to act like I've seen Enchantress in the last, the Modern Horizon set's they tried so hard to give you some good Enchantress cards, but it wasn't enough. So, again, we don't want to talk too long about stuff that is a percentage of a percentage right now in the meta, but just for your guys' awareness, I do think this card has a lot of hidden power to it.
All right, cool creature up next. What do you got first?
All right, we got Steward of the Harvest. This is from the Tarkir Commander set, actually. For 2 and a green, it's a 3/3. And when this creature enters, exile up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard. And creatures you control have all activated abilities of all land cards exiled with this creature. What the hell is this?
So you actually just gave yourself away. It is 3 and a green, not 2 and a green. I know you wish it was 2 and a green. I know you wish it was. And if it was, this might be to the very top of this document and something we're talking about at the top of this program. So yeah, the 4 mana makes this a little rough, but I mean, as a legacy player, when you read a card like this, the first thing that should be going to your mind is all these cool lands that we can do. Maze of Ith, Caracas, Wasteland. You know, this could fit right into like a green land shell with Thespian Stage. Gaia's
Cradle.
You know, you're turning your creatures into activate Dark Depths. You know, at the drop of a hat, which is pretty crazy. So, you know, those decks are really trying to life from the loam those lands back and don't really typically use creatures. So this would be kind of like a little funsy. A little fun of, but I think somebody will do some fun with this.
I think you can think of like, you know, Elvish Reclaimers in these decks, Malevolent Rumble, you can build towards that.
Yep.
Dryad Arbor maybe with some Green Sun, you can maybe add another Dryad Arbor, or Sylvan Safekeeper is finding its way more and more.
Yep.
So maybe there's some amorphous thing that you want to do with this, but I had a thought with this card where I was like, you play this, and then you have like a Malevolent Rumble token and a Dryad Arbor, and you just double Wasteland them, or like one's now a Gaia's Crater, or they're both Maze of Its. Like,
right.
There's definitely some board states where you can imagine this card can absolutely go nuts. But unfortunately, you have to have a board already, and that's just like harder to ask in Legacy.
Yes, exactly. And the type of decks that really abuse the lands are kind of doing one thing, whereas the, you know, kind of natural order decks are doing another, and they kind of don't exactly mesh. But
this thing's pretty vulnerable. And a lot of these lands want their lands to be cycling in their graveyard constantly, right. So this can actually hinder that. But you know, one of in these decks, it could be a Green Sun target for the right moment. It's just like perfect for the exact moment you need it. So
right.
I don't know, super interesting, super unique, and you can, you know, there's a lot of these lands that.
Yeah, seems like they're really playing with this kind of with the Agatha Soul Cauldron sort of thing, like exiling things from the graveyard, and then you have
now your stuff is all
abilities.
Yeah,
pretty interesting stuff. All right, cool. Let me see what I got next. Oh, this is a cool card. Strategic Betrayal, 1 in a black. Unfortunately, this is not an instant. It is a sorcery. Target opponent exiles a creature they control and their graveyard. Take it away.
Period.
So yeah, it's a bit of a Shoulder's Edict, bit of a Majuka Bog, a little bit slower at the same time.
The exile's the big interesting thing on the Shoulder's Edict side of this card. There's definitely a lot of board states in Legacy where there's only one massive threat that your opponent has, or even you can imagine. I think we were talking about it earlier, like where you have a DRC out and you're preparing to cast a Murktide, and your opponent casts this. That's pretty bad for you.
Almost has to be countered.
Like having a Majuka Bog effect on a spell, it's also like 0.5 or 50% of removal spell. Like, I don't know, does that add up to enough of an effect, because graveyards are so valuable in this format?
Right, and I'm actually, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about, you know, my black answers for graveyards are Leyline of the Void, which I need in my opening hand, which is either a 4 slot in your sideboard. I'm thinking about Fairy Macabre, which is, you know, only taking 2 cards, or Surgical, which is taking 1. So I mean, this might have a slot as a 2 mana full graveyard answer. Is pretty interesting. Now, like you said, the sorcery, but the timing has to be perfect for this. You really have to slot this in. But when it hits, this would be a serious hit. But I think the sorcery restriction, you know, your opponent is choosing the creature they're exiling, kind of knocks this down a couple notches for me. But could see some play in some sideboards. I would not be shocked.
I think this card has enough going for it that you could imagine playing scenarios that it's really good. I mean, even, if you're playing against lands or something, like, so what, you got their Malevolent Rumble token, but then you also exiled like their Life from the Loam and all the lands. Like, it's, I don't know. I think for 2 mana, that's really, you're really asking a lot.
Yes, I would say you would typically see this up in like 3 mana zone. That's a good point. So you're doing 2 things for 2 mana that are very impactful. Yeah, exiling a creature for 2 mana, you do not see that very often, actually. That's a good point.
Maybe it's enough. Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. Right.
Next one, not going to spend too much time on this card because we've seen a lot of these existing, but there's three very important words on this card that have not been around before. Heritage Reclamation. For 1 and a green instant, choose one. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and draw a card. Those are the 3 words. What do you think about this card?
Those words are essential. Yeah, good. I mean, it's just kind of like, this is kind of, what we've seen in Magic the last couple of years, kind of just pushing these kind of classic cards that we know to give them more and more words and more abilities on them. But it's keeping up with the rate of how things are going. And so, as a card like this, kind of this, Return to Nature.
There's a card called Return to Nature. Yeah, we've seen a couple times. Is this exact card without draw card.
Right.
So that's like, again, very important words on a Magic card to make it playable. Is just cycling this when it's less relevant. But again, somebody out there take your shot, hit your bingo card. I'm bringing up Omnitel again. Cunning Wish, another great Cunning Wish target.
Right.
Wilt. I've been playing Wilt and been playing Terra Sunder, and been playing. I think that's about it for the naturalized disenchants.
Wilt gives you a cycling option.
1 and a green, destroy target artifact or enchantment as cycling.
Cycling for 2. That's right. Okay.
That's it. That's like the same thing. So, again, I would think about putting this in my Cunning Wish sideboard because, yeah, I have Surgical Extraction most of the time to grab as my targeted graveyard removal, but it's multi-purpose. It pulls a lot of duties. If you have there's Cunning Wish with an Omniscience out, you're not gonna have to worry about how much mana you're gonna have to pay. So just the flexibility could be interesting. But yeah, that's all I really want to mention with this card. Was it could be a Cunning Wish sideboard target because the other effects of this don't really see much play. There's a lot better options
for sure. All right, I'll give you this one, you little salty.
This was a late ad. I did not know about this card, but I had some thoughts.
Let me see if I can get through this word jumble here. All right, Kotist Sib-Sig.
Might be my next commander, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Legendary creatures, not be warrior, 3/3. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs. So not something that's too difficult to do in Legacy, especially if you're building around it. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control enter, if 1 or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put 2+1/+1 counters on Kotist. So I will let you take this in your little
There's one word that shivers down all Magic players' spines. Dredge, people. Give a shout out to Mafuzvango, I believe is how you say his username.
Shout out, Vango.
Just the absolute master of Dredge content that's out there and really pushing this forward. So this is kind of inspired by his line of thinking potentially. Although I don't
quote you on that.
I wouldn't take my Dredge advice, but there's 2 really important cards with this card. You're constantly milling yourself as per usual. So if you get this out, you're probably gonna have to untap to do it. But stuff like LED will give you immediate mana to cast something out of your graveyard. So, with that mana, discard your hand, potentially do that. So there's definitely some things going. Narcomoeba is going to pop out of your graveyard if this is in play, going to give him some counters. And that's, that triggers these next 2 cards that I want to talk about mainly with this card. That's Prized Amalgam and Poxwalkers. Prized Amalgam's been around for a while. This is 3 mana, 3/3. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, return Prized Amalgam from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped at the beginning of the next end step. So, if Narcomoeba is going to pop out, then that's usually you're going to get a bunch of your Prized Amalgams back too. So, and then this guy's going to keep growing each time those Prized Amalgams come back. And Poxwalkers is the other card here. This is from 40k. It's a 3/1 with Death Touch for 3, and whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, return Poxwalkers from the graveyard to the battlefield tap. So it's kind of this. It's almost this like little key piece that lets you cast the spell from your graveyard to chain the Poxwalkers and Amalgams back, or if you get into a situation where you just dredge a ton, you've like cast a Breakthrough, or you've cast Careful Study or Faithless Looting or something, and you're just dredging a billion with your Golgari Grave Trolls, and you run out of a library. I know they play Thassa's Oracle as kind of a side win con. This guy helps you cast that Thassa's Oracle, again, off of an LED mana that you've used, So I just there's just like a lot of like really subtle, powerful stuff going on.
I feel like he does enough to deserve a slot, especially deserve.
He does both things. Like that's the thing. It's
right.
like, and then himself is this gigantic threat. I mean, if you're bringing these guys back, I think I know it says one or more creatures you control enter. So if they're individual instances, I think he gets 2 counters each time. Again, don't quote me on that, but I think that's correct. So you're gonna have this massive freaking thing. And have you ever heard of the card Anger? If that's in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. So if you are able to cast this with Anger already in your graveyard,
who does that card? Is that our guy Archive Post? Who does that?
The
old school one.
Oh god, I think it's Avon. It's actually Avon.
Is it? Oh, it is Avon.
I think it's one of the most unrecognizable Avon arts ever. But
illustration.
Anyway,
Avon.
I've pontificated enough about this card, but you know, I just think like a really, really sweet role player in the same vein as Satoru the Infiltrator from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which is a 2-mana menace guy that like when it or another non-token enters and it wasn't cast, you draw a card, so it just gets you like a little bit of value. This is more of like a kind of linchpin card that's gonna and it's gonna push your game plan forward and also be a threat on its own. So that's kind of all I gotta say. I'm really into this card. I'm really into this card.
All right, I'll let you talk about our last one as well. This is we are legally obligated to talk about this because it is a Mox.
It says Mox in the name and a term.
All right,
format,
so we saw this one. I actually if you want to see a beautiful art, the alternative art of this, maybe Sam can put it up on the screen for us. Really cool. That kind of dragon frame, I think, is really nice, and the art for this is gorgeous.
What about the old border? Has to be serialized only version, I believe.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's
you know me.
But this is we're talking about Mox Jasper here. It's 0 mana legendary artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Activate only if you control a dragon.
Right. So that's not going to happen typically in Legacy. But you immediately
usually dragons cost a lot of mana.
But you immediately brought up cards like Changeling Outcast and Universal Automaton that could cause this.
Your 1 mana dragons,
right? Your 1 mana dragon, your 1 mana dragons, and you played this list on the channel, which is a really fun one, like a ninjas list. Tell me how this could slot into there.
So I imagine this is the play pattern. You play Changeling Outcast, you play Mox Jasper, you ponder, or you hold up Brainstorm, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, something, right? Then the next turn, you play your second land, and now you have 3 mana. You attack with your Changeling Outcast, Ninjutsu in Yuriko, and then you've already used the mana from Mox Jasper, so you don't have to worry about it. And then you just like replay the Changeling Outcast or something. So that's about the best scenario in my head that I can come up with where this could fit in. It would be like a weird ninja dragon deck, even though there's no dragonless. Yeah. Here's the deck: Ninja Dragonless Dragons.
Hey. Manaless
I don't know if that's
Dragonless Ninjas. Who knows?
So
we said we were legally obligated to talk about it. So.
But again, that doesn't sound terrible. It doesn't sound actually bad. But in the grand scheme of Legacy, Ninjas is already a kind of outside looking in deck, and I don't think this interaction is gonna really power it.
We'll let the Dragon Commander players buy all these up.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for our first non-gameplay.
Yes, we'll try to do this every set.
Try to do this every set. Yeah.
Try to do some other non-gameplay stuff for you guys as well.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Please check out if this is the first time you're seeing a video from us ever, and you made it to the end, and you haven't watched our gameplay channel. Go check out the rest of our videos. We got 17 matches up right now, spanning, and we come up with a new episode every Tuesday. And of course, we love all the support so far. We thank you guys for commenting. We thank you guys for sharing and liking and all that. All the numbers make our hearts happy.
They really do. Thank you for all the subscriptions and all the support. We love it, and we love Legacy, and we'll keep bringing it to you guys every week.
All right. Catch you guys next time.
Thanks.